Hey there, guys. Today we're going to try to address some of your questions and comments regarding the various fluids that are used in automobiles. We get a lot of questions, a lot of phone calls and emails into our office, questions on the videos, so we're going to try to give you some answers today. The first thing I'd like to say is that contact the manufacturer of the product that you think you might want to use. They have people at the oil companies to answer your questions, so you can always ask the manufacturer, which I highly recommend doing. The other thing is to choose a brand that is locally available so you can be consistent with what you're using. You don't have to hunt around for a particular brand of oil or grease. It's something you can easily get. And then with all these things comes the topic of synthetic or conventional. My view on that is if a fluid is going into a sealed case like a differential, a manual transmission, use a synthetic. I like to use synthetic greases. In a motor oil or transmission, if your car is equipped with a full flow oil filter, I would say use synthetic because you can benefit from the longer change intervals. I would say, though, that you might want to change your filter at normal interval. That's what I do. I run the oil in my diesel car for 9,000 miles. I still change the filter every 3 and top it off. If you have a car that does not have a full flow filter, it only has a screen in the transmission or maybe a bypass filter on the engine, I would stick with the conventional oil because you need to be dropping it to keep the engine clean since you don't have full flow filtering. And with things like a chassis grease or a bearing grease, I always go with the synthetic in those. And that's served me fine now for many, many years. Probably over 20 years I've been using synthetics. So first off with engine oil, this is an old Cadillac LaSalle manual from the 30s. And it's telling you to use 40 to 50 weight oil in the summer and 20 weight in the winter. And then as we go on, we start to see where they use a lighter viscosity. They go to a 30 weight for summertime. Then you start seeing where they have the 10W and 20W oils in the 40s, and then starting in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s, we start seeing where we see like 1030 and 1040 and 2050 being specified. So if you have the older car, there's no advantage to running a straight weight oil anymore. You might as well use a good multi-viscosity that's going to fit within the viscosity needs of the engine. So if you got something that's calling for a 30 weight, you can use a 1030, a 1040, and that gives you pretty much for a lot of parts of the country year-round use. Where it's very cold or very hot, then you're used to having to make choices for your weather conditions. For your modern cars, you make the same choice for your old cars. Generally, in the old cars, I use a 1540 or a 540 oil that's designed for diesel engines. I don't own any cars with catalytic converters, so I don't have to worry about zinc and phosphorus poisoning a catalytic converter. And so the diesel lubricating oils have higher zinc and phosphorus, which is important when you have the flat tappet cam. You'll get excessive cam wear if you don't have enough zinc and phosphorus in your oil. You can use additives like break-in additive. If you're using a modern gasoline engine spec oil, you can use it. With my 1972 car, I use 1030 synthetic oil and about a quarter bottle of break-in additive on each oil change just to keep the zinc and phosphorus levels up in the oil. And other than increasing zinc and phosphorus, there's no other additive that's of really any benefit that's going to fix a problem. There's no such thing as a mechanic in a can, so don't get suckered with that. If the car is burning oil, if it's leaking oil, bad compression, nothing from a can is going to fix that. The only thing that's going to fix that's the machine shop. So just keep that in mind. And the other place you'll see motor oil specified in a lot of these cars is for the air cleaner. And the air cleaner They often specify a SAE 50 weight. Cadillac does. I know that my old cars have that spec. Straight 50 weight oil is basically only available as a race oil, and it's very expensive. And something we'll get to in the end here is I'll show a chart at the very end of the video, and it's going to relate the viscosities of motor oil and gear oil and the ISO standards. And when you start looking at the actual viscosity of an SAE 50 motor oil, it's about the same viscosity as a 90 weight gear oil. So I've had very good luck using gear oil. The cheapest you can find 90 weight gear oil in the air cleaners on my cars. Had very good luck. Now we move on to the automatic transmissions. All of our old cars that have automatics, you'll see going back, they require a Type A fluid or a Type A suffix A. Then we start moving into Dextron and Dextron 2. And I think they're up to Dextron 6 now. As the transmission fluids evolved, the additive packages got better. They moved away from things. They used an oil derived from whales in the early transmission fluids. They moved away from that, improved the additives, changed friction modifiers for different shift quality, and the viscosity consistently became lower and lower as they upgraded the oils. So if you can find Dextron 2, some refiners still make it. It can be found. That's suitable for all your old Cadillac automatics, all the way back to the very first Hydromatics. If you can only find Dextron 3, that'll work. But you really shouldn't use anything newer than a Dextron 3. The viscosity is too low, and the additive package is not the greatest for the old transmissions. So generally you'll see it referred to as a Dex-Merc, a Dextron Mercon universal fluid. That's generally suitable for our cars. If you're having a transmission rebuilt, talk to the rebuilder. Talk to the man that's going to build it for you, and ask him what fluid he recommends with the clutches and bands that he's using. Or if you have a fluid that you want to use, tell him that's what you want to use, and give him some so that when he soaks the clutches before he assembles the transmission, that they're soaked in the fluid that you choose to use. Now, one additive that can have some use is a seal swell additive. You got a transmission where it's leaking, it's having trouble holding pressure in the servo or in the clutch packs. You can put a little bit of a seal swell additive in. Don't put more than a half a bottle of it in, and know that it's just going to be a tide me over to a rebuild. If you got problems like that, if you're having trouble with it shifting right in the middle of summer, it might get you the rest of the Cruisins to the drive-in for the rest of the summer, but you're going to be looking at a rebuild over the winter. So that is just a temporary stopgap, but it has some effectiveness. But don't be overdoing it. If you put the whole bottle in, you're going to make some trouble for your rebuilder. He's going to have trouble getting stuff apart. The seals are going to swell so much. If your car has a manual transmission, generally a 90 weight is specified in the manuals. You can use a multi-viscosity. There's lots of choices. Manual gearbox, the place I'd use a synthetic. You want to use a GL4 rating or a GL5 that's safe for yellow metal. That means it's not going to have reaction with the brass and compounds that are in the synchros and possibly in bushings in your transmission. So I've had very good luck in the old transmissions with synthetic, modern synthetic gear oils. Works really good. Power steering. The power steering, the manuals tell you can top it off with up to a pint of whatever automatic transmission fluid that you have for your car. So it would be, like we talked about, a Dex-Merc type product. If you're going to do a complete fill on your power steering, you're going to flush it, or you've replaced parts, and then you'll want to get the proper dedicated power steering fluid, which is, you'll see it in the auto part stores for the late model cars. It's common. It's sort of an amber colored fluid. Any auto part store should have that. and that would be recommended for a full fill. On your brake system, .3 brake fluid is what all these old cars use. If some people will use a .4, it has a higher boiling point when it gets water in it. .5 is a silicone-based fluid, which requires the system to be completely flushed, and I don't recommend going to that. It makes for a lot of work. If you're completely rebuilding a brake system and replacing everything, then that would be the time if you wanted to use the .5 silicone fluid. But otherwise, .3 is what the cars call for, and probably overall the best to use. The differential, they call for a 90 weight extreme pressure lubricant. That would be something with a GL5 rating these days. A multi-viscosity like a 75W90 would be a good choice. That's what I run in all my cars. Don't have any trouble with noise or leaking or anything like that. It seems to be the most common thing available these days. Now on your convertible top, or if you have a car that's old enough where the power windows are not electric, they're hydraulic, those systems, generally brake fluid was used until 1953. Then after that, it could have been brake fluid or automatic transmission fluid. So if you need to top off a system, you're going to want to kind of get in there and draw a sample out and see if it's red or see if it's, clear amber colored, and match what's in the system. Now, if you're rebuilding, all the parts that we sell here at Caddy Daddy are recommended to be used with ATF, automatic transmission fluid. So just like before, the same Dexron 2, Dexron 3, Mercon standard will be the choice for your convertible top. And lastly, for wheel bearings and chassis lubrication, another place I like to use is synthetic grease. I like to find a grease that I can get both in a can for hand work packing bearings by hand, and also in a tube for my grease gun. That's another one. Pick the local refiner that's prevalent in your area, that you can get both products easily. That should pretty much sum up a lot of the questions that we get. I'm sure that this will probably bring up more questions and even more arguments and opinions. Like I say, this is, except for where I talk about warranty on our replacement convertible top parts, these are my personal recommendations from years of positive experience. And we'll have a shot here at the end of the video showing the chart that relates viscosity between the different types of oils and by universal seconds, so that you can see how things relate. And by the way, an automatic transmission fluid is equivalent to about a 20 weight motor oil, and that's not shown on the chart. ATF's not shown on the chart, but the chart correlates horizontally. So just an interesting thing to look at. We'll throw in here at the end of the video. So hope that helps you guys out, and enjoy driving your cars and being able to know that you can get the appropriate fluids that will give you the best performance and best life in your car.
At Caddy Daddy Presents, it's all about giving back. Please enjoy the video of the Boys and Girls Clubs of St. Helena and Calistoga. donate by clicking the link in the video description.